The Pentagon and U.S. officials have reported that the U.S. military has carried out airstrikes in eastern Syria, targeting a training location and a weapons facility affiliated with Iranian-backed groups. This action represents the third instance in just over 2 weeks in which the U.S. has responded to escalating attacks on bases housing U.S. troops in Iraq and Syria by these militants. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, in a statement, mentioned that these strikes focused on sites near Abukama and Mayadin, known to be utilized by Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps and other Iran-backed militias. In this video, Defense Updates analyzes how the U.S. has hit back at Iran for attacks on American troops in Syria and Iraq. Let's get into the details. Before we proceed, a word on NordVPN, which is one of the most trusted VPN brands worldwide that has a no-log policy validated by Deloitte, an industry-leading Big Four auditing firm. NordVPN provides an encrypted tunnel that protects your privacy by preventing external entry to your internet traffic, as well as enabling you to access content that's blocked based on geolocation. Best of all, with one NordVPN account, you can secure up to 6 devices at the same time. Get an exclusive NordVPN deal with massive savings by going to nordvpn.com/defense or clicking the link in the description. It's risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The United States has deployed 900 troops in Syria and an additional 2,500 in neighboring Iraq. Their mission is to advise and assist local forces in preventing the resurgence of ISIS, which previously gained control of significant territories in both countries before being ultimately defeated. The recent U.S. strike aimed to disrupt the capabilities of Iranian-backed militants by targeting their supplies, weapons, and ammunition. This action is part of the Biden administration's strategy to strike such groups suspected of posing a threat to the U.S., deterring future aggression. Simultaneously, there is a careful effort to avoid escalating tensions in the region and triggering a broader conflict, especially amid the backdrop of Israel's conflict with Hamas. The Pentagon stated that 2 U.S. F-15 fighters conducted the strike. Viewers may note that F-15s can carry a variety of air-launched ground attack weapons that include smart bombs, as well as missiles like JASSM or Joint Air-to-Surface Standoff missiles. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said in a statement, "This precision self-defense strike is a response to a series of attacks against U.S. personnel in Iraq and Syria by IRGC Quds force affiliates. The President has no higher priority than the safety of U.S. personnel, and he directed today's action to make clear that the United States will defend itself, its personnel, and its interests." He added, "The United States is fully prepared to take further necessary measures to protect our people and our facilities. We urge against any escalation." According to an undisclosed local source, Reuters reported that the U.S. airstrikes focused on a camp operated by pro-Iranian armed groups in a region west of Abukama, situated in Deir al-Zor province. Another strike occurred in the vicinity of a bridge near the city of Mayadin, which is close to the Iraqi border and serves as a stronghold for pro-Iranian armed groups. A senior U.S. defense official added that the 2 locations chosen for the airstrikes were significant and will impact the ability of the IRGC and IRGC-backed militia groups to continue to attack our forces and continue destabilizing the region. Austin had earlier said, "The United States does not seek conflict and has no intention nor desire to engage in further hostilities. But these Iranian-backed attacks against U.S. forces are unacceptable and must stop. Iran wants to hide its hand and deny its role in these attacks against our forces. We will not let them. If attacks by Iran's proxies against U.S. forces continue, we will not hesitate to take further necessary measures to protect our people." Iran says the U.S. shares responsibility for Israel's actions against the Palestinian armed group Hamas, which is also backed by Iran. A senior military official said that the facility, located in Maysalun in Deir ez-Zor, Syria, is believed to have housed weapons used in many of the airstrikes that have taken place against our forces here in the region. The official said, "We've been watching it for a bit to ensure that when we struck the target, we would strike at a time that we would be able to eliminate the use of the facility to the IRGC. I watched the engagement. I can tell you that we're pretty certain there were some secondary explosions that indicated that the facility was housing weapons that we believe are likely used in many of the strikes that have taken place against our forces here in the region." The official added that they are very certain the strike did not involve civilian loss. It was also reported that the U.S. did use the deconfliction line with Russia. The U.S. speaks with Russia regularly regarding military operations in Syria. Iranian-supported groups like Houthis have targeted not only Israel but also the U.S. force in the region after Israel mounted its Gaza offensive in the aftermath of deadly Hamas attacks on the 7th of October. Under the banner of the Islamic resistance in Iraq, numerous militant groups have executed close to 50 attacks since October 17th on bases where U.S. personnel are stationed in Iraq and Syria. The Pentagon reports that approximately 56 U.S. personnel sustained injuries in these attacks, primarily in Syria and Iraq. However, all personnel have since recovered and returned to their duties. The injuries encompass a mix of traumatic brain injuries and other minor wounds. ABC News quoted one U.S. official that Iran's fingerprints were all over these attacks in the way that it has funded, equipped, directed, and trained the militias, and added that the United States was holding Iran accountable for the recent attacks. He noted, "Iran is trying to hide its hand and maintain some level of deniability, and we're not allowing that to happen. We hold Iran accountable for the actions of groups that it trained and equipped." He added, "There is a direct tie between the militia groups and all the front organizations that claim responsibility for attacks against U.S. personnel. It's evident that the U.S. had enough of this nonsense and has retaliated accordingly." Subscribe for more videos like this. Hit the like button if you find the video interesting, and kindly provide your feedback in the comment section. This will help us improve.